Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to Hilaal Live. It's our tech segment, and on a weekly basis, we bring you various updates with regards to the tech world and some of the changes that's going to affect our life. Now, one such change, and you must have noticed this AI option that comes up on Facebook and Instagram on a regular basis. Well, it's permanently there now, of how we could ask a question and give us an answer. Facebook and Instagram have implemented this, and I think WhatsApp has also done it as well. To tell us more is our tech guru. Joining me via Zoom is Naz Ebrahim. Assalamu alaikum, Naz.
Walaikum salam, Luqmaan. Great to be joining you again.
Jazakallah so much. Are you an AI user? I tend to find it makes me a bit lazy, this whole AI thing. Are you also finding that?
You know, it's a great point to start on. Many people are now lamenting that they're not getting to use much of their creativity or reasoning capability.
Yes.
But the mere fact that we are asking the question means that we understand and have an awareness something is wrong. So at least we're using some component of the reasoning level. But for sure, a second step from making Google a part of your vocabulary, the word Google, I'll Google it, is now I'm gonna put it into ChatGPT or Claude or Meta, Meta's AI assistant, and see what answers I come up with. I mean, I'm using it on the PDF with the AI assistant to help me read documents just a little bit more easily,
right?
So that I can get a quick summary, especially when I'm in presentations, and I bring them up live and use the AI assistant so people can see how the tech is at work.
Yeah.
The component about being lazy, well, Luqmaan, it's a conversation for every day.
I agree. But, it has its uses. Like you said, you use it to a point. Yeah. And obviously, in certain aspects of our life, certain industries may find it rather useful as well. But the app owners, Facebook and Instagram, they've chosen to use a very classic approach of presumptive permission being granted to them and offering users the opportunity to opt out before, I think it's tomorrow, the 26th of June, to whether that feature can still be part of our everyday life. Is that sufficient enough warning? I mean, is that enough time for us to, we're a reactive culture. We don't come from a proactive culture. Is that enough time for that warning?
That's right. Certainly not. I think this is the challenge that many users are facing. The case has started out in the European region, in the EU, and of course, the US have called the makers of Facebook, Meta as a parent company, Alphabet, Google, many times in front of the Senate. FTC or the SEC all have a participation in understanding how the social networks are, giving guidelines around user policies and privacy policies. This is not enough time, certainly. Think about the user behavior, Luqmaan, around how people consume, register, or post online. Register to use a service or post online. Typically, they're taking the checkbox on, do you accept the privacy policy? Do you accept the user policy? Et cetera, et cetera. Okay. Not going into the back end, which is a lot of detail to read. But also, users who have tested, and there's a civil rights activist group in the European Union, NOIB, who are also working alongside the Irish Data Protection Commission, and brought up this issue around Facebook's it's kind of slip around users and giving them a very short period of time. It's almost like government coming to you one day before. Before the thing is meant to happen and saying, no, we actually did have public participation. One day before we enabled or enacted a full act, a new infrastructure development bill, whatever it may be. So the same principle at play. The problem here is that we have to understand the social networks, just by design, have various agendas in the back end. And if they're using our data from different kinds of content that we're using to train, the agenda around whether it's a political play, it's an economic play, or just merely where they're able to perform and get away the easiest, we've got to think about all of those those elements.
Yeah, a bit of double standards at the moment. If you think about it, and you mentioned that they've been called in front of the Senate many times. I know that the U.S. government at the moment is taking one of Chinese telecoms to court at the moment about some of the data sharing that they've been involved in, and worried about American data and privacy laws that are going to be affected. Surely this is then going to infringe on our privacy laws to a large extent.
100%. And I am very glad that you raised that point, because what this highlights again for us is these issues, or the conversations and dialogues where they are put under pressure, under fire, commonly come up in the developed North. We're going to call it the developed North. The UK, US, as it is commonly known, when we're having a discussion around the disparity between where you may have privilege and where you may not. And currently, the privilege to privacy seems to only be pertinent to the developed North.
Yeah.
The developing South, where we are right now, has the conversation around what it means to have the right to privacy. We saw a really great, we can say, media monitoring and an oversight, especially with the elections. So that was really great when our South African elections happened. The report back on how people participated, what kind of misinformation and disinformation was tackled.
Yeah.
They're using various mechanisms. The IEC used WhatsApp to a fantastic degree around voter information. And so you see those pockets of participation, digital participation and digital conversation happening. But to that extent, the Senate, and you use the example of TikTok facing very stringent hit back from the Senate around banning them, possibly banning them. It went through the president's office, but they too have now hit back using what they call, it was Project Texas, where they got Oracle on board to develop a framework for protecting people's privacy and people's data. We don't have that kind or level of conversation here in South Africa or on the African continent, certainly not, while there are concerns around how is our privacy used, how our people and our human resources used for these big tech companies abroad. And those are, I think, the two streams of conversation typically happen here in South Africa and then on the African continent.
Look, our viewers are probably thinking that we're AI bashing. We're not really, but we're looking at the parameters on how this is all unfolded. However, there is a positive route, a positive aspect to AI, and a perspective that a lot of our audience may find very useful in their everyday life. What is your thoughts on that, Naz?
I love that you asked the question, and certainly every revolution that we have come through from understanding where we were, using hieroglyphics to communicate, putting language into play, having oral history where you are communicating through words and storytelling, and then finally coming into the age where we started to get steam, electricity, and all the great stuff that makes life convenient. And then coming into the computer age, we have always looked as a human race towards advancement through the things around us that make life just easier and quicker to do. Right. AI has, of course, become the talking point, the selling point, the living point for the next generations to come. How it will be improved upon that is, of course, I think every company has defined that role, which is how do we make it smarter? How do we make it easier for people to access on something like a phone, not just the desktop, at the edge, they call it, on the phone. And how can we make this cheaper and better or more sustainable for the environment? So it's interesting to hear those conversations coming up. It's a positive and fantastic technology which enables better healthcare output, better education goals, which people are using to either use for tutoring. It gives you the capability to generate a thinking or a spark of an idea, and then to develop on that idea using the human potential or creativity. So in that regard, AI as an assistant, AI as a knowledge enabler is fantastic. And we understand the negative parameters, the cybersecurity scares around it, but certainly it is a technology that has fundamentally shifted and changed our lives. We only understand the world through this type of lens. And if we fail to match our skill level, but also the psychology around how we operate as humans, then we run the risk of remaining irrelevant in a workforce that's fast developing, but also as a human race. But that is not to say that the core being of being spiritual, of understanding that there is a divine being who's created this earth, and nature still nurturing us has a role to play. That is not to say that.
Yep.
It still very much is at the core of who we are.
Awesome. Well, we have the opt-out option tomorrow, and I think our users need to think very carefully whether that they want to exercise their right to opt out or not, and make it part of their daily life. Naz, Naz, it's been an absolute pleasure. Jazakallah so much for coming on board, educating us around this very important matter, issue, app usage that we could all benefit, and maybe some not so much as well. We're wishing you a lovely evening. Jazakallah. Assalamu alaikum.
It's always a pleasure talking to you. Have a great evening too.
Jazakallah. There we go. Our tech guru, Naz Ebrahim, chatting to us about the opt-out option of our AI function on the WhatsApp and Instagram. You may want to give it a think and see whether that's for you or not. That's all that we have for you from the Cape Town studio. On behalf of my colleague Sohail Barnes and Mohammed Patel, myself, Mohammed Parker, and myself, Luqmaan Shadrach, we wish you a lovely evening. Assalamu alaikum.